Hey up everyone! So today's movie I'm discussing on the channel is the debut feature of RaMell Ross called Nickel Bouys, which is an adaptation of the novel of the same name by Colson Whitehead. The film chronicles the powerful friendship of two young African-American men navigating the harrowing trials of a reform school in Florida known as Nickel during the 1960s. There was some excellent buzz for this film when it made its debut at the Taylore Film Festival a few weeks ago. I was already keen to see this film, but those first reactions just got me even more excited to see it. It is coming to the London Film Festival in a few weeks, but I was fortunate enough to catch it a few weeks earlier at a press screening, and what did I think of Nickel Bouys? I loved it. RaMell Ross has only really made a feature documentary before called Hale County This Morning, This Evening, which actually got nominated for Best Documentary that year. But Nickel Bouys is his first full-length feature, and it is an astonishing debut. It's beautiful, poetic, important. It's one of those films where I needed a few minutes to sit with it, to process it, because it's not an easy watch, but it's certainly an effective one. One thing that I certainly wasn't expecting from this film was just how immersive it was. RaMell Ross has implemented an ambitious directorial choice in the way that he shoots this film, because he's literally telling the story from the literal point of view of the focal characters. Like, we're seeing what they're seeing, okay? We're in the characters' shoes. And at first I was a little nervous because I thought, oh, how long is it going to take before this creative directorial choice gets tiresome or tedious, but amazingly, it didn't. Ross does just enough with it to keep it from feeling like a gimmick. He alternates perspectives between the two boys. Elwood, played mostly in this film by Ethan Herisee, and Turner, played mostly in this film by Brandon Wilson. He also tells the story in a non-linear structure. While the bulk of the plot does occur at the reform school Nickel, Ross and co-writer Jocelyn Barnes pepper the narrative with flashbacks, flash forwards, as well as what feel like Elwood and Turner's memories or dreams. Like, there's a clip of the film The Defiant Ones starring Sidney Poitier that plays as Elwood is arriving at Nickel. It's almost like he's comparing his situation that he's in to the beginning of Sidney Poitier's character in that film. There's an ethereal quality to RaMell Ross's direction which feels very reminiscent of the work of Barry Jenkins. So yeah, think Moonlight or If Beale Street Could Talk. We'll have to hold the phone with Mufasa. But yeah, there's a lot of intimate close-ups, significant focus on insignificant details, and the cinematography by Jomo Frey is very sensory and melancholy. Like, you can practically smell the mustiness of the cabin in which the boys sleep at in Nickel. You can practically feel the skin of the orange when Elwood reaches out to touch one. It's very inviting. It really does pull you in as a viewer. Like, literally, there's a scene where Elwood's mother, who's played by Aunjanue Ellis Taylor, comes to Nickel to visit her son, but they won't let her see him. So she decides to give a hug to his friend Turner instead. And because the camera is literally in the point of view of Turner, you can practically feel the warm embrace of Aunjanue Ellis Taylor's arms wrapping around you as you're watching. That was a really lovely moment, but again, because there is an immersive quality to watching this film, you also, as a viewer, get a sense that something isn't quite right at Nickel. Okay, something sinister is in the air, there's something nasty going on, and yeah, you get a sense of the character's uneasiness while you're watching it. It's a very empathetic experience watching this movie. Because remember, this was all based on true events, okay? There were some genuine real-life horrors that occurred on the grounds at this Nickel school. But I really do have to give credit to Ross for capturing the horror that occurred at Nickel, but without resulting to black trauma porn. There's a scene where Elwood and some of the boys are taken to this remote cabin somewhere on the grounds, and they're being punished by presumably whipping or lashings, and I say presumably because Ross doesn't actually show you any of the violence, thank God, but he does let you hear it whilst showing the audience what I presume are archived stills of images of the boys who were at Nickel, so they were either victims or survivors of the horrors that unfolded at Nickel. So yeah, powerful stuff. As far as negatives goes, I only really have one minor gripe with this film, and that is particularly towards the end of the film, Ross implements a lot of archive footage. There's a lot of shots of science and space travel popping up. I think this was used to give the audience a sense of where we are in the timeline by showing us the advancement of technology. But because there was such an abundance of these shots of space travel and science and stuff, I did wonder, is this meant to mean something more than just, you know, a signifier of where we are in the timeline? Do these images have more depth to them than that? I wasn't sure if I got what Ross's intention was here. I did find it a little bit odd, but maybe I'm just being a little bit dense and completely missed the meaning of it. If you think you know what all the sciencey stuff was about, please do let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to get some clarification on that. But yeah, that's really all that stood out to me as like a minor criticism of this film. Shall we talk about its Oscars chances? Yes, I do think that Nickel Boys is going to receive some Oscar nominations. This is the type of issue movie that feels all too pertinent with everything that's going on in America right now, especially in a post Black Lives Matter movement America. People are going to be moved by this film, okay? It's gonna stay with them after they've watched it. I think it is a top 10 contender for Best Picture. I think RaMell Ross has a chance of getting into Best Director. This is a film with very distinctive, distinguishable direction, okay? It's completely different to anything else that you're gonna see this year. It really does stand out amongst the pack. But who knows, maybe the director's branch might find it a bit too much, maybe a bit too on the nose, or maybe because this is RaMell Ross's first feature, he might struggle to get in. But it is very memorable direction with its POV-ness, so I do think he has a chance. As for the performances, I'm not quite sure if I see any of them getting in. Maybe Aunjanue Ellis Taylor could do like a Naomi Harris in Moonlight and get a nomination for Best Supporting Actress for a small but impactful part, but Aunjanue Ellis Taylor's performance here isn't anywhere near as devastating as Harris's was in Moonlight. So yeah, I don't really feel confident on Aunjanue Ellis Taylor yet. But how about Ethan Herisee and Brandon Wilson for Best Actor and Supporting Actor? I think it's unlikely, and that's not because their performances aren't worthy of a nomination, they absolutely are, but more because young breakout male performances don't often get nominated at the Oscars. It can happen, but it is more on the rare side. A nomination for Best Adapted Screenplay feels quite likely to me, okay? The vocabulary in this film is just divine, okay? It's very artistic without being pretentious. Cinematography and editing are definite possibilities. The score as well could definitely get a nomination. Scott Ilario and Alex Summers' score definitely adds to the sensuality and atmosphere of this film. The piece where Elwood arrives at Nickel certainly comes to mind. They use a lot of screeching synths and sharp blasts from, I think it was an oboe or some sort of other wood instrument, but it immediately gives you a sense of danger when they arrive at Nickel. The sound design is some of the best I've heard all year, and it's kind of reminiscent of The Zone of Interest. Because often you don't see the horror on the screen, but you do hear it through the sound design. The scene that I mentioned where the boys are being punished, okay, you've got this really loud whirring AC fan, and you can also hear the screams of the boys in the next room with the echoes like bouncing off the walls. Okay, it's very visceral sound design. So yeah, I do think it's gonna get some Oscar nominations, but I do wanna hear from you guys. How many Oscar nominations do you think Nickel Boys is going to get? In what categories? Let me know your thoughts in that comment section down below. All right then, let's ask them 3 questions. Firstly, would I watch this again? Yes, I actually think I could return to a film like this quicker than I could a film like 12 Years a Slave or Till, because while this film does deal with some harrowing topics, there is still a warmness to this film because so much of the story has a lot of emphasis on the friendship of the boys. So yeah, it's not an easy watch, but I'll definitely come back to it someday and add it to the collection. Question 2, do I recommend it for you guys? Again, this is not an easy watch, okay? Its subject matter is quite upsetting in places, so if you're someone who's easily triggered, then this film might not be for you. But as a piece of filmmaking, it is just incredible. If you like the work of Barry Jenkins, like Moonlight or If Beale Street Could Talk, then you'll probably appreciate this film. That's who I recommend this film for. And third question, what score to give out of 10? Nickel Boys is a fantastic first feature from RaMell Ross and is one of the best films of 2024. I had a couple minor gripes with this film, but it did move me, so I'm going to give Nickel Boys a score of 9 out of 10. But as always, guys, it is just one bloke's opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Nickel Boys. Whatever you have to say about this movie, please do let me know in that comment section down below. If you guys have enjoyed the video, help me out with a little thumbs up button. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars related content, don't forget to click subscribe. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Harrowing, and I'll see you next time.